Hi, Andrew Cushman here. You hear a lot these days about buying value add, single family, multifamily, and we talk a lot about what that means. My goal for today is to actually show you in person, in the real world, what that actually means and what we look for when buying property. So I'm here today at a property we bought about 6 months ago, just outside of Augusta, Georgia. A lot of the projects have been completed, some are still in progress. And so what I want to do is just kind of walk through and highlight the things that we liked about this property, why we bought it, and the one thing we didn't like. So let's get started. All right, so now one of the things we really liked about this property when we bought it is that it actually had almost zero curb appeal, but it had lots of potential. So how do we improve that? Well, if you see right behind me here, you can see we're installing a lot of landscaping. Landscaping is one thing you definitely do not want to skimp on. It makes a huge impact. Everybody loves it, and once it gets established, it's something that really sets your property apart, especially if it's older and not new construction. All right, now if we look right here, this was just kind of old half-dead junipers and not really attractive bushes that hadn't been taken care of. So we just ripped all of that out. We're in the process of putting in crepe myrtles and some other plants that will do well naturally once established, and of course we'll finish off the bed with mulch or pine straw. You can also see we've added shutters, a very easy cosmetic improvement. And if you look around the property, you'll see those throughout. And then this building over here is a good example. When we purchased the property, we didn't have the shutters, but then the stairwells were rusted out. All those balconies were just rotted wood. And so we've replaced those, painted them, added a few additional colors, and then even painted the existing light poles black just to kind of improve the overall curb appeal. Now another thing that we look for is opportunities to add amenities. You can see again behind me we're putting in a brand new playground, and this is going into a spot on the property that was nothing but dirt and half-dead grass. Other opportunities for amenities that are easy to add are pet wash stations, fitness rooms, adding laundry rooms, or in this case just bringing one back from the dead. And then in our pool area there was no furniture, so we're going to be adding pool furniture. Now that's not truly a new amenity, that's enhancing an existing one, but again it's just that value add idea. What can we do to enhance the experience of current residents, but then also the future residents that we're going to be trying to appeal to? Something else that we liked about this property is that it was built in 1989 and 1991 in 2 phases. So what that means is it's not a brand new luxury property, and it's not so old that it's falling apart, but it's old enough that there is definitely room to bring it up to speed, modernize it a little bit, and to enhance the rents. And what that also means is that we don't have to deal with things like asbestos or aluminum wiring or typically really bad plumbing that you find in some of the early 70s and 60s product. Another thing that means is we have clean but functional units that are ripe for upgrade. So I'll take you a quick tour around this unit and show you exactly what I mean. You can see that the unit is clean and again functional, and we can lease this all day long without any problems. We have our nice old drop-in stoves and plain kind of almondy color laminate. You've got your 1980s, early 90s cabinets that look kind of blah. And it's just a 1-bedroom unit. Getting ready to replace the toilet, put a low flow in there. And here's the bedroom. So as you can see, it's all just very basic, clean, and functional. Again, we can lease this all day long without any problems, and we can actually get decent rent increases because it was below market. However, by coming in and renovating it, we can get a lot higher rents. All right, so while we're in this unit, I want to go over a few of the other things that we really liked about the value add potential of this property. One is the median income here is relatively high. And so, well, what does that mean? For us, that means the median income can easily support our future rents. So if we're looking to get rents to, let's just say $900 on average per unit, that's probably not going to work in an area where the median income is $20,000 or $25,000. That rent would be way too large of a percentage of your applicant's median income, so they wouldn't be able to afford it. The median income here is just north of $50,000 a year, meaning that the people who are moving here or already have jobs here can easily afford the rents that we're trying to get to. And that leads to yet another thing that we really liked about this property, in that when we purchased it, the rents that were in place were anywhere from 60 to 80% below the competition. Now the competition is actually A-class properties. We're the only B in town, so we're not going to get to those rents, but it shows that there's just a huge gap and a huge opportunity to increase rates. Another thing that we really liked is there's low crime. And so what exactly, again, does that mean? Well, the first thing we do is we just go to Trulia and we pull up a map, and if it's all green, that's a real good start. But we don't stop there. Once we're actually going to buy a property, we get in touch with the police department, and we try to get in touch with the beat officer or whoever is actually in charge of covering the property that we're looking at. And we talk to them, and we just say, well, how frequently do you have to go out there? Well, when you do go out there, what do you have to go out there for? And if the answer is like, well, I went out 6 months ago, there was a domestic fight in one of the units or something like that, that's a good sign. What you don't want to hear is, well, we had 2 homicides last year and a stabbing, and we have to go out there 3 nights a week to stop the partying and all those kind of things. Also, if there are some minor or light crime issues, we always ask the police department, is it just that property or is it the neighborhood? If it's just the property, that means you've got a management play and an opportunity to clean up the property and bring it up to the standards of the neighborhood. If the neighborhood has crime issues, you can try to fix your property, but that crime is going to come right back in, and that's something to generally avoid. Now, I did mention that there was one thing that we didn't like about this property, and you can see that right behind me here. Those are the railroad tracks that are just across the street. I'm standing basically on our property line, or actually our property line is probably about 50 feet behind me. So what do? You can't move railroad tracks and you can't move the property. So what we did is we talked to the existing residents during due diligence. We asked, well, how frequently does the train go by? Well, they told us, it only goes by about 2 times a day at most. Then we asked the residents, well, does it bother you? Most cases the answer was no, we don't notice it, we forget it's there, or I'm working during the day and it only comes by during the day. So we determined that even though it's something that we don't really prefer, it wasn't a big enough negative to counteract all of the positives that the property did indeed have. Now, something that we look for any property, value add or not, is that the property is an area with good job and population growth. And there's lots of online resources for figuring out what that is and where jobs and people are moving to and all of that. But there's nothing like boots on the ground, driving around town, looking for signs. So we're going to go do that real quick, and I'll show you some great examples. All right, now what you see behind me here is a brand new Sonic. When we bought this property 6 months ago, and by the way, we're only about 100 yards up the street from our front entrance. But when we bought the property 6 months ago, this was just a vacant piece of dirt. There wasn't any construction or anything going on. When we stopped by the city hall to ask, well, hey, what's happening here? They told us and showed us the plans for the new Sonic. Now, a new Sonic isn't gonna have a massive impact on jobs or anything like that, but especially considering it's right next to our property, it shows that not only is there existing population growth, but these large chain restaurants are building in expectation of continued growth, and generally they're a little bit ahead of the population growth and where people are going. So this is an extremely good sign. Now, this is good, but we're gonna go another couple 100 yards down the street and visit the granddaddy of them all. Now, when we first came out to look at this property, the parcel behind me was just flat dirt. It had been recently turned over, so once again, we suspected something was going on. We went to City Hall and found out that a new Walmart was going to be put in, and as you can see behind me, it is nearly completed 6 months later. In fact, it opens according to the sign on the front, it opens about 2 weeks from now. So again, another hugely positive sign that a massive nationwide retailer with tons of resources that, they spend all kinds of time studying demographics and population growth and jobs to figure out where they're going to build their new stores. When they're doing that, just a couple hundred yards down the road from the property you're looking at, that's about as good a sign as you can get. Along the same lines that you can't see, just maybe about 2 miles down the road, is they just did the grand opening for the second largest Kroger, which is a grocery store in the state. Again, that's just 2 miles down the road. Now, we could drive around town. There's about 10 or 15 other examples like this that I could show you. But again, these are just the things this is what it looks like on the ground in the real world. When you pull stuff up online and say, oh, new retail or population growth, when you see it actually going in like this, you know you have a winner. And finally, there's something that I half look for whenever we're buying a property, and that's you want to make sure there's at least some decent restaurant options nearby, not just for your residents, but so that when you come to visit, you can take your staff out to lunch as a small thank you for their continual hard work and a job well done. Because managing a property and especially repositioning a value add deal is a lot of work, and they deserve it.